The breaking point. Dr. Elena Santos stood in her private lab aboard the Helios research station, staring at the data scrolling across her holographic display with growing horror. Her hands trembled as she double-checked the findings, then triple-checked them. There was no mistake. The quantum degradation in their latest prototype wasn't random at all. It showed clear signs of deliberate sabotage. Computer, cross-reference these decay patterns with all approved consortium technology guidelines from the past 50 years. She commanded, her voice steady despite her racing heart. The computer hummed, correlating vast amounts of data. As the results appeared, Elena's suspicions crystallized into cold certainty. The consortium hadn't just been providing humans with outdated technology. They'd been actively embedding subtle flaws in every approved design, ensuring humanity's developments would always fall short of true breakthrough. The guidelines themselves contained carefully crafted errors, masked as safety protocols. Elena immediately contacted Admiral Chen Wei, Earth's highest-ranking military official in charge of extrasolar defense. Within hours, she found herself in a secure briefing room aboard the EarthGov headquarters in Geneva, facing not just the Admiral, but the entire Human Council of Sciences. The evidence is conclusive, Elena explained, projecting a complex series of quantum matrices. These patterns appear in every piece of consortium-approved technology we've adopted. They're subtle enough to pass initial inspection, but they ensure our developments hit artificial ceiling limits. She paused, letting the implications sink in. We've been systematically sabotaged for over 5 decades. Admiral Chen's weathered face remained impassive, but his dark eyes flashed with controlled anger. How many of our systems are compromised? All of them, Elena replied. Or rather, all the ones we've built following consortium guidelines. But she smiled for the first time since making her discovery, not the ones we've kept secret. The room stirred. Everyone present knew about Project Phoenix, humanity's classified research initiative that operated completely independent of consortium oversight. What they hadn't known until now was just how crucial that independence had been. "Show them," Admiral Chen ordered. Elena nodded and activated a new holographic display. This is what we've actually achieved in the Phoenix labs. The display showed ships with capabilities far beyond anything the consortium believed humans possessed. Quantum drives that didn't just breach space but rewrote its rules, shield technology that adapted to any weapon signature, and energy systems that drew power from the quantum foam itself. We're not behind, Elena concluded. We're so far ahead in certain areas that the consortium would consider our technology impossible. They'd been so focused on keeping us down that they never noticed we found a completely different path up. The implications sparked intense debate among the council members. Some advocated for immediate confrontation with the consortium, demanding reparations for decades of sabotage. Others urged caution, suggesting they could turn this deception to their advantage. Admiral Chen silenced the debate with a raised hand. "Dr. Santos, how long would it take to completely eliminate consortium technology from our critical systems?" "We've had contingency plans in place for years," Elena replied. 3 months to switch everything to Phoenix tech. We can do it quietly, making it look like routine upgrades." The Admiral nodded, then addressed the council. "Ladies and gentlemen, we've been playing a game whose rules were rigged against us from the start. I suggest it's time we stop playing entirely." Over the next 3 months, humanity executed the most sophisticated tactical withdrawal in its history. While maintaining a facade of business as usual, they systematically replaced every piece of consortium technology in their infrastructure. Ships were quietly retrofitted with Phoenix drives. Defense systems were upgraded with true quantum shields. Communication networks were transferred to channels the consortium couldn't even detect, let alone monitor. The day everything was ready, Elena found herself standing beside Admiral Chen in the grand hall of the consortium's central embassy on Earth. The Admiral's voice carried clearly through the vast chamber as he addressed the assembled alien diplomats. "Distinguished representatives of the consortium," he began, his tone perfectly diplomatic. For 50 years, humanity has operated under your guidance, following your regulations, and accepting your oversight. Today that ends. The announcement triggered immediate chaos among the alien delegates. Demands for explanation mingled with threats of sanctions and barely veiled warnings of military response. Admiral Chen waited for the uproar to subside before continuing. We know about the sabotage. We know about the deliberate flaws in your technology guidelines. We know everything. He paused, letting his words sink in. As of this moment, Earth and all human colonies formally withdraw from the consortium. We neither seek nor require your approval for this decision. As if on cue, every piece of consortium monitoring equipment on Earth simultaneously went dark. Their sensors could no longer penetrate Earth's atmosphere. Their tracking systems could no longer locate human ships. In the space of a heartbeat, humanity had simply vanished from their systems. The alien diplomats' reactions ranged from disbelief to outrage to fear, especially fear, as they realized their carefully maintained technological superiority had been nothing but an illusion. As Elena watched the aliens struggle to comprehend their new reality, she felt a mix of triumph and sadness. Humanity had never wanted to be enemies with the consortium. They had genuinely sought friendship and cooperation. But the consortium's fear and arrogance had forced this moment. The age of human submission was over. And as their ships disappeared from consortium sensors across the galaxy, as their colonies activated shields that rendered them invisible to alien scans, as their quantum communications network hummed with activity no consortium technology could detect, one thing became crystal clear. Humanity hadn't just caught up to the galaxy's dominant powers. They had quietly surpassed them. The breaking point had arrived, and nothing in the galaxy would ever be the same. Silent thunder. First Counselor Vexthor of the Consortium's Technology Oversight Committee stared at the holographic display with all four of his eyes, mandibles clicking in agitation. The data made no sense. According to the readings, a human transport ship had just crossed the Orion Gap, a journey that should have taken 3 weeks, in less than 6 hours. Run the analysis again, he ordered his assistant, a crystalline being named Zix. But they both knew another scan wouldn't change the results. This was the 12th such incident recorded in the past month, and each one defied the consortium's understanding of physics. First Counselor. Zix's harmonics vibrated with concern. There's more. Our long-range sensors detected unusual energy signatures at these coordinates. The display shifted to show a region of space that had, until recently, been empty. Now it housed what appeared to be a massive human installation, one that hadn't been there 2 days ago. In the 3 months since humanity's withdrawal from the consortium, such reports had become increasingly common. Human ships appearing and disappearing at will, massive structures materializing in space without warning, and energy readings that shouldn't be possible according to known science. The door to Vexthor's chamber hissed open, admitting Security Director Krelix, her scaled form rippling with barely contained anxiety. The humans have done it again, she announced without preamble. The Mining Guild just reported that humanity has started extracting resources from the maelstrom. Vexthor's upper eyes blinked rapidly in shock. The maelstrom was a region of space so turbulent with quantum storms that it had been deemed permanently inaccessible. The consortium had written off its vast mineral wealth centuries ago as impossible to reach. How? He demanded. The quantum interference alone should tear any ship apart. Krelix projected a recording from a guild observation post. The footage showed a human mining vessel calmly navigating the quantum storms as if they weren't there. More disturbing still, the storms seemed to bend around the ship, creating a pocket of calm space. Their ships aren't fighting the quantum storms, Krelix explained. They're manipulating them, using them. First Counselor. They're doing things with quantum mechanics that our scientists claimed were impossible. The implications were staggering. The consortium had maintained its power for millennia through technological superiority. They had carefully managed the development of younger species, ensuring none could advance too quickly or in unexpected directions. But humans had somehow developed their technology along completely different lines the consortium hadn't even known existed. "There's something else," Zix interjected, their crystalline form pulsing with nervous energy. "We've detected unusual activity among several of our protectorate species. They're asking questions." Of course they were, Vexthor thought bitterly. How could they not? The humans' sudden demonstration of superior technology was causing ripples throughout the galaxy. Species that had obediently followed consortium guidelines for centuries were beginning to wonder if they too had been held back. A priority alert flashed across the chamber's main display. The Arcturus trading station, one of the consortium's major economic hubs, was reporting unprecedented activity. Human merchants had appeared, offering technologies that operated on principles the consortium's scientists couldn't explain. More importantly, they were offering these technologies to any species willing to trade, completely outside consortium control. "Show me the trade manifests," Vexthor ordered. As the list scrolled past, his mandibles clicked faster in growing alarm. Quantum-shielded power cores that produced 10 times the energy of consortium models. Navigation systems that could plot courses through supposedly impassable regions of space. Communication devices that operated without any detectable signals. "They're not just showing off their advancement," Krelix observed grimly. "They're systematically dismantling our technological monopoly." The human products weren't just more advanced. They were more efficient, more reliable, and most worryingly, more elegant in their design. While consortium technology relied on brute force and complex systems, human devices achieved better results with seemingly simpler methods. It was as if they were operating on a completely different understanding of physical laws. First Counselor, Zix's harmonics had shifted to a frequency indicating severe distress. "We're receiving reports from the diplomatic corps. 3 protectorate species have formally requested to review their membership status in the consortium. They're citing humanity's success as proof that our guidance may not be in their best interests." Vexthor felt a sensation he hadn't experienced in his 2 centuries of service: fear. The consortium's power had always rested on 2 pillars: their technological superiority and the belief among younger species that they needed the consortium's guidance to advance. Humanity hadn't just challenged the first pillar, they were actively destroying the second. "Send word to the High Council," he ordered. "The situation is more serious than we thought. The humans haven't just withdrawn from our influence, they're offering an alternative to it. And..." He paused, all 4 eyes focusing on the latest trade reports. "They're doing it without attempting to control or restrict other species. They're freely sharing advancements that took them decades to develop in secret." As if to emphasize his point, another alert flashed across the displays. A human diplomatic vessel had just appeared in orbit around New Genesis, home world of the Prixie, one of the consortium's oldest protectorate species. The ship had somehow bypassed all of the system's security measures, its quantum shields making a mockery of the consortium's most advanced detection systems. The message was clear. Humanity wasn't just demonstrating their independence, they were showing every species in the galaxy that true advancement was possible without consortium oversight. And they were doing it not through force or coercion, but through open trade and cooperation. The silent thunder of humanity's technological revolution was growing into a storm that threatened to reshape the galaxy's entire power structure. And the consortium, for the first time in its long history, found itself unable to control the changes coming to their carefully ordered galaxy. The ripple effect. Ambassador Lyra, Tizen of the Seraphim Collective, stood before the mirror in her private chambers, her luminescent wings shifting with nervous energy. In all her centuries of diplomatic service, she had never contemplated the action she was about to take. The data chip in her hand contained a formal request for her species to withdraw from the consortium, a document that would end over 2,000 years of Seraphim submission to consortium authority. A soft chime announced the arrival of her expected guest. Dr. Elena Santos entered the chamber, her presence as calm and assured as it had been during their first clandestine meeting 3 months ago. The human scientist had changed since the dramatic exodus of her species from the consortium, carrying herself with the quiet confidence of someone who no longer needed to hide their true capabilities. The quantum core you provided has exceeded all our expectations. Lyra began without preamble, her wings pulsing with excited light. Our engineers have confirmed it produces 3 times the power output of our most advanced consortium-approved systems, with only a fraction of the resource consumption. Elena nodded, unsurprised. That's actually a basic model. We started with simpler designs to help other species transition more easily to quantum manipulation technology. Lyra's wings flared in shock. Basic, but it's revolutionized our entire power grid. Our cities have never run more efficiently. The consortium deliberately complicated many technological processes, Elena explained. They added unnecessary steps, redundant systems, artificial limitations. True advancement isn't always about making things more complex. Sometimes it's about finding the elegant simplicity at the heart of natural laws. The ambassador's chambers overlooked the crystalline spires of Luminara, the Seraphim capital. Throughout the city, new human-designed quantum cores were powering everything from environmental systems to transportation networks. But more importantly, they were powering something else. Hope. We're not the only ones, are we? Lyra asked, though she already knew the answer. Other species are preparing to break away. Elena's expression remained carefully neutral, but her eyes sparkled. I can neither confirm nor deny the diplomatic status of other species. However, I can say that humanity's trading posts have been quite busy lately. A holographic display activated, showing the latest economic data from across the galaxy. Human technologies were appearing in markets everywhere, and with them came a wave of innovation as species began to break free from consortium restrictions. The Prixie had already revolutionized their agricultural systems. The Vardarians had developed new methods of faster-than-light travel. Even the notoriously conservative Zix were experimenting with quantum communication networks. The consortium is losing control, Lyra observed, her tone mixing wonder with apprehension. But they won't accept this quietly. They've already increased military patrols in several sectors. Yes, Elena agreed, they have. Which is why we've also been sharing certain defensive technologies with our trading partners. Purely for protection, of course. The implications were clear. Humanity wasn't just offering independence, they were offering security. The quantum shields and advanced defensive systems they traded would ensure that no species would have to face consortium retaliation alone. A priority alert flashed across Lyra's personal communicator. The Vardarian Empire, one of the largest and most influential protectorate species, had just announced its withdrawal from the consortium. The announcement was being broadcast across all frequencies, impossible to censor or suppress. It's starting, Elena said softly. The Vardarians were always going to be the first domino. Their influence will give others the courage to follow. Lyra's wings shimmered with determination as she held up the data chip containing her own species' withdrawal declaration. Not the first domino, she corrected. Just the most visible one. Many of us have been preparing for this moment. For the first time, Elena's diplomatic mask cracked slightly, revealing genuine emotion. The consortium thought they could control the galaxy by keeping species isolated, dependent, and technologically limited. But they never understood that advancement isn't just about technology. It's about cooperation, sharing knowledge, lifting each other up. Another alert chimed, this one showing massive energy signatures appearing throughout Seraphim space. Human ships were decloaking, revealing a defensive screen that had been secretly in place for weeks. The message was clear. The Seraphim would not face consortium reprisal alone. How many? Lyra asked, watching the tactical display with wonder. How many species have you been protecting like this? Enough, Elena replied simply. Enough to ensure that what's coming next will be unstoppable. Across the galaxy, similar scenes were playing out. Species that had chafed under consortium restrictions for centuries were discovering they had allies they never knew existed. underground networks of cooperation and mutual support, carefully cultivated by human diplomats, were suddenly becoming visible. The consortium's carefully maintained hierarchy was crumbling, but something new was rising to take its place. Not another empire built on control and restriction, but a network of independent species working together, sharing knowledge, and advancing together. As Lyra transmitted her species withdrawal declaration, she felt a profound shift in the galaxy's political gravity. The consortium's power had always been based on isolation and dependency, but humanity had shown there was another way, one based on cooperation and mutual advancement. The consortium called us primitive, Elena mused, watching the growing cascade of diplomatic announcements flooding the galactic networks. They never understood that true civilization isn't about hoarding power, it's about sharing it. Outside the ambassador's window, the first rays of Luminara's twin suns were cresting the horizon. It seemed fitting, Lyra thought, that this new era was dawning with the light of a new day. The ripples of humanity's defiance had become a wave, and that wave was about to reshape the galaxy forever. Power shift. The Grand Chamber of the Consortium Council, once the unchallenged center of galactic power, now felt like a mausoleum. First Councillor Vexthor faced the drastically reduced assembly, his mandibles tight with tension. Of the 1,000 seats that had once been filled with representatives from across the galaxy, barely 200 remained occupied. The Arcadian Federation has formally announced their withdrawal, Security Director Krelix reported, her scales a dull gray of despair. They've already begun dismantling our monitoring stations in their territory. That makes 17 major species in the past month alone. The numbers were devastating. Nearly 60% of the consortium's former protectorate species had declared independence. Their carefully maintained trade routes were fragmenting as new networks formed outside their control. Even their most loyal enforcers were beginning to question their orders. "Show me the latest intelligence from the human territories," Vexthor commanded, though he dreaded what he would see. The holographic display activated, showing a transformed region of space, where there had once been scattered colonies operating under strict consortium oversight. There now existed a thriving network of independent worlds. Human quantum technology had transformed previously uninhabitable planets into flourishing settlements. Their ships moved freely through areas of space the consortium had deemed impassable. But most troubling was the activity at their borders. A steady stream of ships from various species moved through human space, engaging in free trade and cultural exchange. Each vessel that returned to its home territory carried not just advanced technology, but dangerous ideas about independence and self-determination. Admiral Chen Wei stood on the observation deck of the Earth's newest diplomatic station, Unity Point, watching vessels from 24 different species dock and depart. The station, positioned at the intersection of several major trade routes, had become a symbol of the new order emerging in the galaxy. "Admiral," his aide reported, "we've received confirmation from the Arcadian Federation. Their transition to quantum-based infrastructure is complete. They're now fully independent of consortium support systems." Chen nodded, satisfaction evident in his expression. The Arcadians had been among the most technologically advanced of the consortium's protectorate species. Their defection would inspire others who had been hesitating. "And the defense grid?" he inquired. "Operational across all allied territories. The quantum shield network is provided." Back in the Consortium Council chamber, Vexthor received the news with a sense of finality. The Syndicate's declaration included a devastating revelation. They had been in secret contact with human AI systems for months, learning new ways of processing information that made their consortium protocols seem primitive by comparison. First Counselor, Krelix's voice was heavy with resignation. "We're receiving requests for emergency sessions from our remaining protectorate species. They're demanding immediate revisions to all standing treaties." Vexthor knew what that meant. The species that hadn't yet formally withdrawn were going to demand autonomy, while the consortium was still weak enough to be forced to grant it. The age of absolute consortium authority was over. Throughout the galaxy, the power shift was accelerating. New alliances were forming, based not on control and submission but on mutual benefit and respect. The human model of open cooperation and shared advancement was proving more attractive than millennia of consortium doctrine. Admiral Chen watched another fleet of ships enter Unity Point space, these bearing the marks of a species that had been among the consortium's oldest and most loyal servants. They came not as supplicants seeking permission, but as equals ready to trade and collaborate. Humanity never wanted to rule a galaxy, he mused to his aide. We just wanted to show that there was a better way to explore it. Together. The power shift wasn't just political or technological. It was philosophical. The galaxy was learning that true strength came not from controlling others, but from working together to achieve things that no single species could manage alone. New dawn. The Galactic Assembly Chamber on Unity Point Station hummed with activity as representatives from over 300 species gathered for the first meeting of the new Interstellar Cooperative. The chamber itself was a testament to the changes sweeping through the galaxy. Designed with quantum architecture that allowed each species to experience their preferred environmental conditions while occupying the same space. Dr. Elena Santos stood at the main podium, looking out over the assembled delegates. 5 years had passed since humanity's dramatic exit from the consortium, and the galaxy had transformed in ways few could have predicted. The old hierarchical structure of dominated and dominant species had given way to something new. A network of independent civilizations working together by choice rather than coercion. Welcome to the first official gathering of the Interstellar Cooperative, she began, her voice carrying clearly to each delegate in their native language through quantum translation fields. We gather not as rulers and subjects, but as equals united by our commitment to mutual progress and understanding. Among the assembled representatives sat Ambassador Lyra Tzen, her luminescent wings now glowing with the confidence of one who had helped reshape galactic society. The Seraphim Collective had become one of the strongest proponents of the new order, their natural diplomatic abilities helping to smooth the transition for many species. In another section of the chamber, a delegation from the former consortium sat quietly. Their numbers were few now. Only those who had embraced change and rejected the old ways of control had been invited to join the cooperative. First Counselor Vexthor was among them, though he no longer held his former title. He had been one of the first to recognize that the consortium's fall was inevitable and had worked to ensure a peaceful transition for his people. Admiral Chen Wei, now serving as Earth's primary representative to the cooperative, took his place at the podium after Elena. The past 5 years have shown us what is possible when species work together as equals, he declared. The technological advances we've achieved together far surpass anything the old system produced in millennia. The evidence of his words surrounded them. The quantum technology that humanity had pioneered had evolved in unexpected ways as other species added their own insights and innovations. The Prixie had combined it with their biological sciences to create living ships that could traverse quantum space. The Vardarians had integrated it into their ancient energy arts, achieving levels of power generation that defied conventional physics. But perhaps more important than our technological achievements, Chen continued, are the bonds we formed, the friendships and alliances that have grown not from fear or dependence, but from genuine respect and mutual benefit. A holographic display activated, showing the transformed galaxy. Trade routes crisscrossed space in complex patterns, unrestricted by artificial boundaries. Quantum shields protected not just individual worlds, but entire regions of space, maintained by the combined efforts of multiple species. Research stations where scientists from dozens of civilizations worked together floated in once forbidden regions of space. From her position among the Earth delegation, Elena watched a group of young representatives, human, Seraphim, Prixie, and others, engaged in animated discussion about a new joint research project. They had grown up in this new galaxy, never knowing the rigid hierarchies of the consortium era. To them, cooperation across species was natural, expected. The challenges we face now are different. Elena addressed the assembly. No longer must we struggle against artificial limitations or fight for the right to advance. Instead, we face the true challenges of space, the mysteries of the universe that no single species could hope to solve alone. A series of images appeared in the holographic display, the first successful probe into a black hole, achieved through combined human and Vardarian technology. The quantum mapping of dark matter distributions, made possible by seraphim sensors and Prixie biological computers. The establishment of stable wormhole networks, a joint project involving dozens of species. Some once feared that without the consortium's control, the galaxy would descend into chaos, Chen observed. Instead, we have found that freedom and cooperation breed responsibility. Species that were once kept apart by artificial barriers now work together to solve common problems. The assembly chamber's quantum fields hummed as representatives from various species stood to share their experiences. A Prixie scientist described how their agricultural yields had tripled using techniques learned from human farming colonies. A Vardarian elder spoke of ancient energy mysteries finally understood through collaboration with seraphim researchers. Even a former consortium enforcer admitted that the new system had produced advances they had once thought impossible. But our work is not finished, Elena reminded them. The galaxy is vast, and there is still much to explore, much to learn. The difference is that now we face these challenges together, each contributing our unique strengths to our common journey. As if to emphasize her point, a priority alert flashed across the chamber's displays. A joint exploration fleet had just discovered signs of an ancient civilization at the galaxy's edge, one that appeared to have mastered technologies that even their combined knowledge couldn't fully comprehend. 5 years ago, Chen mused, such a discovery would have been suppressed by the consortium, deemed too dangerous for lesser species to know about. Today, it represents an opportunity for all of us to learn and grow together. The assembly erupted in excited discussion as representatives began forming research teams and planning expeditions. The barriers that had once divided species had fallen so completely that no one even remarked on the strange sight of former enemies working together with enthusiasm. Elena watched it all with quiet satisfaction. Humanity had never sought to replace the consortium as rulers of the galaxy. Instead, they had shown that true power came not from controlling others, but from working together as equals. The galaxy had learned this lesson well. As the assembly continued their discussions, the first rays of the nearby star began to shine through Unity Point's quantum crystalline windows. The light scattered through the advanced materials, creating a rainbow effect that touched every delegate regardless of their species. It was, Elena thought, a perfect symbol of their new reality. Different kinds of light, all part of the same spectrum, each contributing to illuminate their shared future. The new dawn had truly arrived, not just for humanity or any single species, but for the galaxy as a whole, and its light would shine brighter than anything the old order could have imagined.